Can you hear me now? Okay. So I'd like about 10 minutes of your time, and because this is very emotional for me, I lost my son to cancer. He was 29. I would like to just talk a little bit about how medical marijuana helped him. This is Marina Goldman. She was my son's nurse, and my son Silas. On October 1st, 2007, just 4 days before his 29th birthday, my son, Silas River Bennett, had to call an ambulance to take him to the local ER when he could not move on his own due to excruciating pain. He thought that he had a pinched nerve in his neck, which would have made sense. After all, he was young and healthy, or so he thought. When Silas got to the hospital, an x-ray disclosed that half a vertebra in his neck was gone, eaten away by cancer that was diagnosed as stage 4. How does someone so young, so vibrant, and with so much life left to live deal with such devastating news? Silas had recently gone back to college to become a journalist. He had found his passion and was excited to be heading toward a career that would allow him to work for social and political change. Cancer altered everything. Silas was so violently ill that he had to take a leave from college and made the decision to move in with me while he was undergoing treatment for the cancer. Within a month of his diagnosis, Silas had already endured a heavy dose of radiation and the first surgery to stabilize his neck to avoid paralysis. Within 2 weeks after surgery, he was put on chemotherapy treatments that left him weak and throwing up non-stop for days at a time. He could not keep food down and was in horrific pain, and he was scared. Words cannot adequately describe what Silas was going through. I watched helplessly as my son continued vomiting and losing weight quickly. He had no appetite, could barely keep down diluted apple juice with ice, and just getting into the bathroom and back to bed was an incredible challenge. It broke my heart. Silas was passionate about life and normally had a great love of food, from chili dogs to gourmet dishes. Now, as hard as he tried, he could not stop vomiting long enough to enjoy a meal. At the time of his diagnosis, Silas was put on heavy doses of methadone for pain. Shortly thereafter, Silas decided that he wanted to be as present and independent as possible and asked his doctors to help wean him down in dosage. Silas was fighting hard to stay alive, yet life was becoming a roller coaster of unbearable pain, hospitalizations, and more pain, in spite of the excellent medical and personal care he was receiving. Before long, I began to think about medical marijuana. I had heard about people taking it for nausea during chemotherapy, and when Silas and I discussed it, he decided it was worth trying. Silas was fortunate enough to find someone who could provide him with medical-grade marijuana, and began to try before attempting to eat. Or if he was sick and throwing up, he would often ask to take some to settle his stomach, which frequently led to the success of keeping his food down. Silas took marijuana brownies with him to chemotherapy, and it made a huge difference in how his body tolerated the long hours of being hooked up to IV chemotherapy. Medical marijuana allowed Silas to relax as a toxic mix that we hoped would slow his cancer course through his system. As time went on, and with the use of medical marijuana, Silas began enjoying food again and was able to take pleasure in going out to various diners and restaurants. Those are memories my daughters and I will have forever. Somehow Silas was able to stay extremely positive despite the amount of pain he was in. It was true to his personality, his spirit. Cy kept his sense of humor and gratitude for life much of the time, in spite of receiving devastating news time and time again. Yet the reality is that Silas was young, and he was being forced to deal with something that is overwhelming for people much older than he was at that time. I cannot imagine the anxiety and despair my son felt inside as the cancer stopped responding to the chemotherapy, within several months. I know that medical marijuana helped Silas with more than the vomiting and his lack of appetite. It also helped to keep his anxiety at bay, considering what he was going through. I believe it allowed him to feel more like himself. It was something he could take without any negative side effects. It did not slow him down as some might think. Rather, it assisted my son with his ability to stay present and to look toward future goals and projects even during the darkest of times. I believe that, along with his inherent determination, medical marijuana helped Cy to continue his journalistic work through photography, even as his cancer progressed. Just days after